the last time. I was so hilariously laughing. But, here's the thing. This show is live, unscripted, and completely spontaneous, as we all are in the creative world. So, we should not worry. I have a very cool, very special guest today. As you guys know, my main background is contemporary dance, physical theater. And today, a very exciting person from the very physical theater world joining me, Rob Hayden himself. I think he's tuning in from one of the countries out there in the world. I'll let him talk when we invite him over to the studio. Either way, a very small introduction to this whole show and podcast for all of you guys just joining in right now. Welcome. It's a beautiful Monday. We're starting a brand new creative week with these episodes. So today we do have my fantastic guest, Rob, that we're going to invite just in a couple of seconds. And on Thursday, 23rd, we're going to have Eric Dover himself. So it's pretty much Rockstar Central, the best hit show out there possible. So that was my 5 fantastic minutes. No, a minute and 30 seconds, actually. I don't want to push this thing longer because as far as intros go, I think we should let the guy speak for himself. And ladies and gentlemen, please, heads up for my guest. Please welcome in the studio with me, Rob Hayden.
Hi, Anna.
Hello.
Thanks for letting me come on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the invite. It's great to have you on because we haven't seen each other in like a million years. We were trying to...
Give or take.
Yeah, like we were trying to hit a year. When was that? And it's pretty tricky, right?
Yeah, it's a long time ago, and my brain cells have not improved since then as far as memory.
You know
But
what? Things. We age, yet we age backwards in the business, right? How you've been?
absolutely.
Where are you
How's
tuning in
the?
from, by the way?
Well, I've been getting older. Sorry.
I think we have like a small glitch Wi-Fi situation. It looks like we're a little bit delayed. We should be fine.
Yeah. What was your question?
Sorry, I was just asking, where are you checking in with us, Rob, today? Which part of the world?
I'm checking in from Brussels, Belgium.
Gotcha. Shout out to Brussels.
Been here for the last 18 years.
So you matured. You matured in Brussels, pretty much.
Brussels grew on me, I would say. Yeah.
But originally, for the guys that do not know, I know your background, I know your history a little bit, but for those of you just meeting you literally, give us a little bit of background, because you're originally from over in the US, which makes something in common that we both have. Yeah, tell us a little bit where it all started.
Oof. You want the long or short version?
Well,
no.
Considering the format should be 45 minutes, we want to stick to that today to kind of not give too much away. Hopefully looking forward to an episode 2, if you would be willing to come back. So let's make it a short version today.
Let's do the short version. Okay, so I was a hyperactive kid. My parents threw me into a gymnastics class. 13 years later, I was hooked on the theater at the university in New Mexico. Albuquerque, New Mexico, to be specific. And from there, in 1993. And in 2000, I came over, crossed the water, and did an audition for the company and got the job. So the rest is sort of, as they say, history. I've been here since.
Of course, by audition, you mean the company that we all love and know, Ultima Vez. Is that correct?
Yes, Ultima Vez, directed by Wim Vandekeybus, of course. They had an audition in 2001 in December. At the time, I was working with a very great group of people who have their own theater space and working model for theater and for their artistic life in general, Q Staff Theater, based in Albuquerque. Rich Van Schouwen and Sandy Timmerman brought me into the fold, so to speak, and I worked with them just before. And they actually were very instrumental in getting me over here. They helped pay the flight for my the audition to come over.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's like a really rock and roll kind of story. It's like one of these things where you're either super passionate about your development, or you get a chance, like one of these things, you know, the phone calls, and then would you be interested, for example, and your life, you know, completely changes out of scale and scope. And wow, awesome. How cool. So pretty
Well,
much, you know,
that's the
booked
thing.
and off you went.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It was not even an invitation directly. I just wrote them and said, "Hey, can I come to do the audition?" And they said, "Well, you know, Wim doesn't really choose Americans usually."
Well, he started
So
with Hispanics, right? So that was kind of narrowed down national
I'm
wise.
that's coming. Yeah, that's neighborly a little bit, but yeah, I think something just told me I had to do it, and I was really grateful that they helped support me and this decision that I made to come over here.
It would I be mistaken? Because it's an assumption. It's only one woman opinion. But knowing Wim's work for so long, knowing him, knowing the background from '87, the very first piece they created, there's such a massive history to kind of talk about. But I wanna nib on some of the topics just here to kind of let not only folks to research a little bit further if they are interested, which I strongly recommend. But also, I remember Wim being one of these characters out there in the dance theater business, in performing arts, that kind of changed history in the first place. It's like one of these moments that are historic, and then it affects so many other performers. Like, let's say your life. I haven't been in the company ever. I haven't worked with him directly. I work with his dancers. Most of the times. And funny enough, I actually auditioned for Wim like years later, me myself being already an established artist, you know, doing my own projects for the last, you know, 15 years. And so I think it was literally 5 or 6 years ago, somewhere in Europe. I could be mistaken, Germany or Poland. Of course, I didn't get in because that's, number one, not what Wim was looking for, someone already established and in the work. He was looking for someone completely green, so to speak, and willing to kind of, you know, throw bricks and then duck and roll. So, but yeah, in the nutshell, pretty much, you said hyperactive kid. Well, I can tell you my story in a second, but I think it would be interesting. What would you understand through hyperactive kid? Was it you bailing out of school? Was it you willing to reach for an instrument or some physical activity? Like, really, when you were, you know, 5, 6, and 7, like, how was that?
I mean, it sounds a lot more traumatic than it really is, but I mean, I was doing cartwheels in the supermarket, handstands up and down the stairs.
Nice. I love that. I can
Bouncing all
relate
around
to
the
that.
house. Yeah, bouncing all around the house. You know, we would play baseball out in the street in my neighborhood, and I would be in the outfield just standing on my hands instead of paying attention to the game. So I think my parents, they put me in gymnastics when I was 8. And that channeled a lot of my energy, very straight. It was very clear. And I immediately fell in love with the sport. And I think that was what I needed, because I had so much energy and physical energy that I needed to channel it in some way. That inevitably that got me into the university. They gave me a scholarship for the entire 4 years. So if you know, in the U.S., you have to shell out at least $20,000 per year just to pay for an education, just for 1 year.
It's ridiculously expensive. I know. I was raised actually in California as a super small kid. I finished the rest of my education over in Europe, but yeah, it's pretty much exactly as you say. It's like, whew, if you want to be somebody in the sense of sports, being an athlete, whoever, pretty much, you really got to pay your dues or take a huge loan in order to do that. So,
well, I wanted to actually, interestingly enough, I wanted to quit gymnastics when I was 12. I was just fed up. I was just fed up with a lot of things. My coach, I hated my coach. There was just a lot of things. I was having some kind of fear issues with some of the tricks that we had to learn. But my parents convinced me to stay in, and as I said, it kind of step by step, it led me on that road that got me into the university, that paid for my education. That slowly led me into theater, and then theater led me into dance. And so basically everything has sort of led step by step.
One led into the other.
Where I am now. Yeah, basically.
Gotcha.
So I wouldn't say I was like ADHD as they know it now today, being hyperactive kid, but it was like I knew I had a lot of energy, and I think it was a wise decision for them to find a way to channel it.
I think so.
Me.
Well, to be honest, because I know you, Rob. I know you from stage. I know you from teaching. All kinds of situations. Because so funny enough, I would not imagine you doing, like, let's say, an office job, and without discriminating at all towards anyone that has an office job or is pretty much static. But in our case, as performers, as people from stage, it's like, man, that's all we pretty much know. That's the type of expression. So at the same time, it kind of interests me, and I wanted to ask you, so that you could tap into the topic of what was it initially for you that was also exciting? Was that the competitive aspect in sports and gymnastics, or was it purely about getting the energy out there and being physical as an expression? Because for us, it's a way to communicate, right? If it's not verbal, it's physical. So which one was it? Do you remember? Or was that too early on as a kid?
I mean, I didn't realize this when I was a kid, but I was quite competitive.
All right.
But at the same time, gymnastics is the kind of sport where you compete for yourself and for your team. So it's a dual relationship, dual responsibility. If you do really well for yourself, you also do really well for the team because of the way they score the event. So it's better for everybody if you do better. If you win first place in an event, then that score goes towards the overall score for the whole team at the end of the competition. So it kind of became a family atmosphere. I mean, there were a lot of my friends in the gymnastics team. We all had family friends, and my parents were friends with the rest of the other teammates' parents. So it was really like a club in one way. It was a private club, actually, gymnastics club in Eugene, Oregon. And so yeah, I definitely think that helped a lot, not only to gain some sense of discipline or rigor in terms of the process of how we get better, how we perfect our craft or our skills, whatever. So that, I think that environment led me into the theater and dance environment and gave me a good leg up in the sense that I understood the value of the rigor, of the discipline, of the process needed in order to get to where you were going. And
we're trying. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to interrupt you here, Rob, because I could not agree more. Basically, this kind of regime and work ethic, we either learn very, very early on, like me also starting very early in the business as a kid. I was like 5 or 6, tapping into first classes that at the very beginning I was kind of against. But the moment I was hooked, I was like, oh my God, I just need to kind of pursue that. And I think for us, it's no different than being in professional sports, being performing artists. It's about constantly not only reinventing ourselves, depending if you work freelance or you work in a big company like with Wim Vandekeybus, Ultima Vez, but basically like without a schedule, without a regime, without a work ethic, in the sense of it's just you got to do what you got to do in order to be in shape, stay healthy, put on the best show possible for audience, and to live it long enough to kind of look back in 20 or 30 years. Oh man, this was a piece from back in 1987 that I did, and I'm still alive. You know, I've still survived it. Went through the trenches and came out healthy the other way. So, by the way. Funny enough, because one of the pieces that I want to definitely mention for all of our viewers and listeners, I don't know about you because you have been on the other side of Ultima Vez, being in the company, working under the direction of Wim, but Blush is my all-time favorite, both the live performance and the movie format, the short film, the long film. I have prepped a small clip for that I want to share with the viewers, but I'm going to do that a little bit later on. I wanted to surprise you with one thing. Hopefully this is going to work because I literally prepped that on the fly. But 10 years ago, somewhere between the season of Impulse Dance Festival, which is also one of the festivals that we know each other from, either teaching or participating. I think it's one of those festivals that we were catching up or meeting on corridors in transition, at least that I remember most.
All right.
I did a physical theater presentation 10 years ago for one of the local dance theaters over in Poland, Polish dance theater. And well, let the video speak for itself. I'm very curious if you're going to see what I'm talking about, but I don't think you saw this, or our viewers. Let's try to see if this works, guys. Just a second. Click play. This is all on the go. There we go.
Okay, I gotta go.
By the way, I am not sure if we do have audio with this one.
Never seen that.
Have you seen that, Rob, ever? By the way, this is a super old recording on a mini DV tape, number one. So the quality is super old school, super bad. I don't know if we had audio, actually, because I'm testing still this platform. It was probably super glitchy at the same time, right? But the music in the background was actually Woven Hand, one of my all-time music favorites. Fantastic band, you know, with David Eugene Edwards. It's like I could talk about it for hours and ages, which we do not have here, but hopefully we will do an episode on that. The vocabulary. Tell us a little bit, Rob, about the Ultima Vez vocabulary. I know what that is because I've went through that, but I think our viewers are very curious about this one. Lose you. We seem to have some technical difficulties over here, but hopefully you will pop right back on.
Issue.
There we go. We got you back. Now the only question is, how long did you lose us for?
You're back. Okay.
And this went into pantomime mode. All right.
I didn't really catch it, what you just said. Sorry.
Gotcha. No. Quick comment about the video.
This is really rough.
We will let the video to our post-produced version of this episode. We will have that uploaded a little bit later with all of the add-ons, with all of the cool photos, not only from you, from some of the Ultima Vez pieces that you performed at, some small clips and videos also that here, of course, are a little bit glitchy because we are doing this live. But my question was, if you could, Rob, tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about the Ultima Vez vocabulary. I know what that is, and you know most of any people because you've been literally on the other side of that.
Where does it come from?
Among others, yeah.
How is it made?
All of the above in a nutshell.
I guess it's definitely a combination of Wim's particular language, artistic language, his fascination also with cinema and photography, but also what each of us bring, each as personalities, as people in general. So what do we bring to the work, rather than just our technique or our skills that we did. So based on a lot, it's a dialogue. It's a dialogue between the dancers and him. I mean, we speak with each other, generally speaking, in a creative process, creation with him. Weeks just brainstorming and trying things out and see movement ideas, which leads to the vision that he, what it is that he wants to do. But the language starts to slowly appear. It starts to make more sense as we develop it further and further. And as it's clearly stated in the Ultima Vez website, movement as a theater is not necessarily, it's really a language. And that language is brought by each person. Embody the ideas and the concepts and the state that they work with in any given context during a creation process. So you and I would have different movement based on posing. In the case of blush, for example, the word blush, and each of us riffed on that, sort of like
that's not blushing, by the way. That's
you're in a band and you're on a key. Good. Yeah, I'm working on mine as well. The Brussels tan, of course. But anyway, it's very interesting how the language develops over time, because each piece is very different. And even if we work as the same team over a period of several pieces, it's easy to repeat before, so we try not to repeat. Innovate our
I think we got the most of it. As you said, Rob, you fell out. I think we have like a Wi-Fi.
There we are. There we are.
Malfunction. Oh, now it's a little bit better. But yeah, what I heard last, and hopefully our listeners and viewers, is what you said, that individuality is very important, and also that each creative process is kind of different. That it leads pretty much to a different kind of language within a new production, not to kind of copy yourself at the same time. Gotcha. For me, it's been always fascinating, because I found not only Wim's work, and well, with many creators that kind of put a hybrid together. I consider my own work a huge hybrid because always dance was not enough for me. Only movement wasn't enough for me. So I was looking for all of those media to connect and to interlink and turn it into an actual real completely new vocabulary, as you say. Exactly, like Wim has developed throughout the years this vocabulary that he did also take from film and media. Wim, if we can speak for him, but we're both familiar with his work on from both sides, from the outside and the in. You being a performer and a dancer of Wim, have you also choreographed or co-directed any production? I'm sorry, my memory is just a little bit shady on that, because he has done multiple productions.
With Wim, with Ultima Vez?
Yeah.
No. Okay. No, never. No, no. I'll leave it at that.
Simple question, simple answer.
He's the captain of the ship.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
yeah,
at the same time,
he's the captain of the ship, and that's it.
Yeah. At the same time, it's not so easy to create throughout the years a quality that is in itself. Like as you mentioned, there's so many elements to that. Not only the physical side, like how all of the performers interact. I remember an element amongst many of the dance theater or physical theater creators, not only Wim actually, but throughout the last 20 or 30 years of our history. I always appreciated the connection of performers with musicians also live on stage, and those kind of interactions leading into theatrical situation, leading into context, leading into all kinds of provocatory moments, pretty much that, well, in a classical show, whatever that means, it's always a question of definition, would be kind of standard, that you have the background, you have the performers, you have the audience, you have the musicians, so it's kind of all separate. For me, what was always interesting, and I thrived more than anything for that, was always like, let's get it all together, let's do a huge fusion and mix of that, and that creates that unique stage quality and a new language in itself. I think Wim pretty much hit home with that one.
Yeah, it's very much a collaborative process with the musicians in my experience with him. And I think in general, I agree with you that it enriches the process rather than simply just using a pre-recorded piece of music from somebody, or to have them do a already song on stage with the cast.
Well, it's also so much more fun, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's so much more, it makes such a huge difference when they're working alongside you, and then when they're on stage with you, performing with you, giving their sound, their energy, it feeds
you literally feel the vibration,
so
right? Like the vibration from the guitar and vibration from the drum, and then anyone, I don't know, on a sax right above you while you do your thing in space, in a common space. For me, there's nothing more fantastic. And to be honest, that's kind of the element that I remember me being most of the time a solo artist, like back in the day, and also 15, 16, 18 years ago, whenever it was the first time that we actually met. But I was pretty much a solo artist up until all of these collaborations were coming up, but it was a freelance format. I never worked under a company because I was never wired that way. I always had to have my, I am my own ship, ocean captain, and so on. It's just like I had to be in charge, and I knew that from day one as a teenager. But I'm all about the collaboration, number one. So that I super appreciate, and I remember you being a part of that with Josef Frucek, with Elena, with all of the guys from the company. Like we could spend half an hour shouting out their names probably. But one thing that I did, by the way, that I did find like 4 years ago when kind of rock and roll found me, literally. And I did a completely like a new twist and collective on my own work. I founded Rock Dance Theater, which was exactly having these elements that were always so strong with me. Like I always worked with music my whole life. It was always a part of not only the inspiration and the first trigger within a creative process, then down the line, script, concept, performance, execution, and so on. But I haven't had that so much live, working with musicians with me on stage. Not only was it difficult, logistically to tour, because you're either one or two people on tour, or you're 50 people all of a sudden on tour. So that was those difficulties back in, in the 90s, let's say, and so on, in dance theater developing in Europe.
Yeah.
But now it's exactly this element that was kind of always lacking for me. And funny enough, me being a physical performer, a dancer, choreographer, and so forth, I'm slowly transitioning into the music side of things because I started playing an instrument back in like 4 years ago. So, and it was guitar initially. Do you play anything? I know that you do music, Rob. Let's talk a little bit about that, because you did send me some links that I really liked, on SoundCloud, by the way. And tell us what's that about for all of our viewers and listeners checking in either now, half an hour in our episode. We have Rob Hayden with us as our special guest from Ultima Vez company. I'm getting tongue-tied, by the way. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm just catching up with the time because I know Rob has limited time. So yeah, please tell us about your music side of things.
Well, that was also a childhood thing. It was either something really physical or something very musical, because music was a huge influence for me when I was growing up as well. And we had all kinds of records at home, and so I fell in love with the idea that music can make me feel something physical rather than just emotional, or to be a pleasant sound or anything like that. So different kinds of sounds, not just songs or bands, or I really understood.
What kind of
really
record
why.
do you remember playing as a kid? Like, was it Beatles, Kiss? Like, what was one of the first ones?
Yeah, you named the first two already. So
oh, really? I love that. Good taste, by the way, man. I like that.
Yeah. Kiss, Bob, Alabama, Electric Light Orchestra, Phil Collins, all the stuff that my dad had when he was growing up.
That's awesome.
So many, but it was, I started learning guitar around 14, I think I was, and then it kind of stayed as a hobby for a long time. And then around 2007 or so, I had taken a break from Ultima Vez, and I started doing music, basically just diving into music and sound composition. And I made a piece with Mala Klein called Debut in Memory of Coming, and it was premiered in Ljubljana, and I moved to Ljubljana, and I had to basically start from zero. I didn't know shit about music or composition or all the technical aspects of it, so I was basically as green as they come.
Well, and that's how we start. It's always like what the hell? You know nothing, right?
It was something. So it's how it happens, and so snowballed from there. I learned all of the technical aspects that I could in order to set up a home studio, for example, the right mics, so on, the software, all that kind of stuff. And I learned by just dipping my hands in many different musical cookie jars, what is it that I really like to hear? What is it that I really is coming from inside me out? And that was the most important thing, that I didn't music so much as like, okay, I have a guitar, how can I play it rather than have a harmonium, how can I play it rather than the traditional way?
What guitar did you have, Rob? Was it an electric or an acoustic guitar that you started first with?
First was an acoustic guitar. and
Okay. I started with
nylon
electric.
string, but that was
Funny enough.
many. Then it became an Ibanez electric, with an amp and all that stuff. And then eventually for this project with Mala, I had a Gibson Les Paul 58 reissue.
Now we're
Sweet
talking.
Guitar. Amazing.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
See, this is the very dangerous moment right now. We have a little bit over 10 minutes towards the end of this episode, and this is exactly where my warm-up starts. It's like, okay, we've done that theater, we've done background, but when we start talking gear and music, like, boop, that's where I wake up. This is how passionate I am about music on the practical side of things. It's just we need to make an episode too. I'm sure of it already. And but yeah, please continue.
Well,
Ibanez through a Marshall amp, or like what did you use with that Ibanez?
PV. It was an old PV amp.
PV. All right.
When I was like 19, 20, and but around 2006, 2007, when I finally just went tunnel vision into music. I didn't have an amp, but I did have a sound card. I worked with Ableton mainly, because where I was living wasn't conducive to having a massive amp and lots of pedals and things like this. So I basically kept it pretty simple, using Guitar Rig and Native Instruments software for that to create a lot of different funky sounds. I can't say that I'm a musician in that sense, because I don't really know how to play, but I know what I like to hear somehow, and so I figure out ways to
make it happen,
to pull it out of whatever instrument or whatever situation that I'm interested in doing. And I think sound, as I said before, was the key for me. If it had the right sound, then it works. Same with voice.
Would you also say that if the sound triggers something for you, it's exactly like a switch? Blood rush all of a sudden, and it's like it makes you do something. It inspires you, and that's pretty much like a starter for anything good. That's at least what I have. It's just literally.
It's basically my body's confirmation switch. Yeah. Like it works. It makes sense. So it doesn't. I don't have to explain it. It's just.
You know what? It's funny. You also mentioned something that you don't consider yourself a musician. For me, when I started rock dance theater, it was so even before that. Because funny enough, long story short, I did this piece that was a very subconscious transition called First Degree of Separation, way over in 2015/16. That was the season. And I didn't know shit about either rock and roll, nor guitars, nor being on the other side of things. Yet, for me, it never made a difference if you play an instrument, because that's physical performance. It's all that is, and dance or performance. To be honest, the line is not so defined. An instrument is just an extension of the human body, be it bass guitar, be it guitar, drums. So for me, to be honest, it's like we're all kind of musicians on that end. It's at least my philosophy, to be honest, and it pretty much works so far.
Yeah, I would say the same for dance as well. I also don't really make a differentiation between if you're an actor or a dancer, performer, musician, whatever. Of course, you dedicate more of your energy and time to one discipline or one craft.
We can generalize it and call it masochism, right? Like we're all masochists doing it.
Yeah, but in the end, you bring yourself to it. You bring your humanity to the work. Whether you're a technician or an intuitive artist, whatever. But one thing I wanted to say about that is, like, when I decided to work with music, it was a conscious choice to abandon dance to a certain degree, but not necessarily lose the drive or the energy that I get from the work, the physical work. So I needed to translate that somehow in a way that made sense to me musically.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like saying, no matter what discipline you choose, if that switch goes off inside you and it makes sense to you, do it. Doesn't matter if you're a writer or a musician or an actor or a swimmer or I don't know, a quilt maker or whatever. Just somehow you're doing something that makes absolute sense and is of an absolute necessity that you do. And I think we forget, or at least maybe I think it's important to remember, is that if you're an artist and you want to do something and jump into the professional sphere as an artist, it's important, I think, to realize how needed it is to develop your own language. How important it is to, if you're going to collaborate with somebody, or if you're going to do your own work, or if you're going to be even just an interpret, as we say, fulfilling the wish of somebody else's vision, so to speak, it's still you on stage. It's still you doing the thing. So how you do it is going to be so much more, I don't know how to say it. It's like it becomes so much more potent if you bring yourself to the work itself rather than somebody else. Even though we are a kind of composite of different people and histories and so on, at the end of the day, I think Andrei Tarkovsky, the Russian filmmaker, he said once that it's very important that artists try to develop their own language, not imitate other people's visions and work.
I couldn't agree more. Well, basically, we are all human. We breathe kind of the same air. Like our physiology might be, kind of similar. Biomechanics, you cannot cheat that. But I think it makes completely sense, and always has for me. Like I was an extreme case of being an individualist. That's why I kind of ended up in my own universe, which is Rock Dance Theater Planet, pretty much. But yeah, it makes all of the difference in the world. And not only do I always observe that, and I think we both in the dance theater business or entertainment business, call it as you will, we have observed that pretty much it makes a big difference if you want to tap into repertoire, so to speak, but because that's one direction, one of many possibilities, that you work under direction of someone, you kind of delegate what an artistic director or choreographer or band leader would like to have you do, or you work very much on the individual side, not only in your own field of work as a freelance, as you as a creator, but at the end, you need to find your own language and fill that up. I always kind of notice that on cover bands. It's like everyone tried to play like someone, you want to have the darkness, let's say, of Ronnie Dio or Ozzy, but you're not going to be Dio or Ozzy. You need to find your own twist on that. You're not going to dance like La 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 Human Steps or Wim Vandekeybus. It's like, it's a vocabulary, it's a language, but it's you within it. So you got to take it through your own body, through your own filters. So I couldn't agree more what you said. And you know what? I was so looking forward to this conversation, because it's like one of these things that we kick off with a vibe that is common, I think. And for all of our viewers and listeners, either checking in just now or watching from the very beginning, we kind of bumped into each other online in this quarantine world right now with Rob. He just said hi, and then the rest is history. Bang, a couple of days later, we're doing this podcast, and I think we can let the rabbit out of the hat right now to kind of say, this is not my first podcast that I started, this creative talk stream, but for you, it's a kind of World Wide Web debut. Could we say that?
Let's put it that way. Let's put it that way. Live.
You know what? I love it, because it's also an exclusive for my podcast. Number one, to have you, Rob. It's a huge pleasure, and it's an amazing hangout right now. And for me, it's one of these things as if we would be literally hanging out by coffee, by our drinks, somewhere at Impulstanz in Vienna, at Arsenal. Cheers. And have the exact same conversation, between shows and between class. And I remember before the world went out of whack with, the pandemic, that's exactly what we were doing, discussing all of these topics, what's it really about in our world. And how to make it better, what it really is and why we do it in the first place. Well, madness, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely created, at least for me, it's created a reality check, of course, and seeing what's most important, what's the most important thing in your life, and everybody has something, I'm sure, that is very important to them, and they take their time to nurture it and grow it and sustain it. If it really feeds you, do it. So
Would that be the words of wisdom kind of to our young viewers or listeners, like guys, let's say, that would like to do this professionally, being on stage? Would you recommend that, finding your way and finding your passion for things in life? Or because I know that I have to unfortunately let you go. I would love to hang out and talk with you more, but I know we got to wrap this up real quick because you have other places and meetings to attend at this very busy time. So if you have any remaining words to our viewers or listeners, you're most welcome. If not, we just wrap it up at that.
no, I think I could say something, but I'm sure could be another conversation for the second installment, as well as going deeper into the musical aspect of the thing
Right.
that we started to talk about, because that also triggers me a lot. But what could I say? Poof.
Poof. To be
Uh,
continued. Would you come back, Rob? I think we're going to do an episode 2
absolutely,
and 3 in the next couple of weeks, months, you name it.
absolutely. I think it would be really great. And
Awesome.
like I said, this is the first time I've done this, so who
You
knows?
did pretty well. I mean, the Wi-Fi thing, of course, is absolutely not your fault. Everybody is using internet right now. Everyone is abusing the Wi-Fi. So I'm super glad that it worked out, and we kind of did sound check rehearsal super, super quick. So thank you so much for that. Rob, I'm going to let you go. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We had Rob Hayden as our fantastic guest in the, Masters of Physical Theater series, which we just started over here. And until further notice, guys, you can follow Rob on all social media. We will throw all of that in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to look what the guy is doing, because it's super cool. And yeah, we will meet again.
Thanks a lot, Anna. Thanks very much. It was really great to reconnect. Really great to
Fantastic to
be
have
here
you. Have
also.
a great evening, and I'll see you in a bit. We talk soon.
Yes, good.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, guys, this is exciting. As I said, I just literally woke up again because I was super, super tired and super stressed out with today's episode. Not only because I had technical difficulties on another end, but I'm super glad that we managed to have Rob Hayden over here. If you are interested in all of the work, we will have all of the links posted very soon, and not only about Rob on Instagram, also SoundCloud, also Ultima Vez stuff. So thank you very, very much, Rob, for joining us today. This episode will go on live on not only EDT time, that's New York time, probably in the middle of the night today, still on a Monday, but heading on to Tuesday. But I want to also show you a couple of clips, guys, that I have prepared very, very fast. It will be in the post-produced version, also for you guys to follow. But since we were talking about the Blush production, it's a version that is a stage production of Ultima Vez that Rob has participated in as an actor and the performer. But it also went out as a version in film, short version and a long version, like a motion picture. I would like to throw that on. Hopefully, I do find the link right now for you guys. And yet again, I'm not sure about the audio, but on the visual side of things, I would like you guys to see real quick what we've been briefly talking about with Rob. Let's check it out. This is Blush by Ultima Vez and directed by Wim Vandekeybus. This is one of the amazing and one of my own personal favorites. I've been also learning this repertoire by Ultima Vez in many workshops, working with Ultima Vez dancers throughout the years of my career. And it was one of these demanding things where you had all possible elements thrown together, not only working on edge of your own physicality, having very extreme tasks, having very extreme interactions with other performers, with musicians, with stage setup, props, and one of these things that among others, Blush and Wim not only is famous for is one of the first productions from 1987 that included throwing bricks in the air, throwing people onto the floor, jumping, rolling, and really risking physical harm. But that's, I think, for another podcast, and I would love to talk for hours with you guys about it. And as I said, we will have these small clips and elements thrown into there in the post-produced version. Couple of other news today. We did have Rob Hayden joining us for this Rock Dance Theater live talk stream. But on Thursday, though, I would love to invite you guys all to see Eric Dover joining me, my very special guest, fantastic musician known not only in the World Wide Web and reality world of rock and roll from, among others, fantastic bands like Alice Cooper, Sextus, Jellyfish, and also since recently the Licorice Quartet. So guys, you got to be there on Thursday. That's going to be 7 p.m. Central European time and 1 p.m. EDT. And yeah, in other news, guys, there is a lot of excitement coming up and hope you guys all enjoy it. Thank you so much for subscribing, as always, for tuning in and being with us, because we could not do these things if it wasn't for you guys. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and always make sure to click subscribe, click all of the links that share and follow, and all of the help is greatly appreciated. Also, all Rock Dance Theater projects, including this podcast, have been set up not only as a COVID relief fund right now. All of the countries are struggling on the same end, and pretty much if you are able to join not only as a subscription Rock Dance Theater, there is also a relief fund created that all of the profits from those humble donations will be split between not only Rock Dance Theater, but also people such as Rob and many other guests that have been on this podcast and will be in future episodes to come as a donation. So all of the proceeds from that are going to be split as a sustained way to kind of create at the moment from home, with big hope that all of the live shows, see, it's already coming through me, the hope to revive and retrieve our live performances, our live shows, and everything that we are doing in the entertainment business, but at this time is not possible. So huge appreciation for all of your donations, whatever you can chip in, $1, €1, $5, 15 euros, doesn't matter. All of this will go to the COVID-19 relief fund, and thank you very much for that in advance. Looking very much forward to having you guys on further episodes. If you have any comments or requests, we are more than open to get those as well. And thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. We will see you on Thursday. So make sure to click the button of notifications and the countdown to the premiere. My name is Anna Achimowicz, Rock Dance Theater. I have been your humble host today with Rob Hayden as my fantastic guest. And until next time, I'll see you later. Take care.